This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated. Jihadist Psychopath by Dr. Jamie Glazov. I will tell you as an expert on Sharia, as a former child bride who has suffered and faced my own jihadi psychopath, I want you to go and order this book on Amazon.com or go to jamieglazov.com. Get a copy for yourself. You know why? Because you need to be equipped with the knowledge to fight our enemies so you can save your daughters and your granddaughters from future of Islam.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, Jussie Smollett Hoax and the media's tribal war on America. Backed by popular demand and with his hat, Daniel Greenfield, a Shillman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center and the writer/editor of the blog The Point at frontpagemag.com. Daniel, a real honor and pleasure to have you back.
The honor is all mine, and in these turbulent times for conservatives, for all people of goodwill, a word to live by is know where your hat is.
And Daniel, thank you so much for the kind words you had for me during your introduction at my Wednesday morning club talk recently. Very, very kind. Thank you. But one thing that I was stunned by, and you as well, a lot of people were asking where your hat was.
They were asking, but you know, fortunately you did very nicely gift me some aristocratic French wine, so I just passed some of that around and they quickly forgot about the hat.
All right, well, before we get to the serious issues of our time, where does the hat stand now in a philosophical and political, cultural, theological perspective?
Well, the hat grounds us, reminds us of where we are, reminds us of the important things in life, and when it rains, it keeps the water out of our eyes.
But is it connected to the Glazov Gang?
Everything's connected to the Glazov Gang. The Glazov Gang is the intersection of the universe. You can trace everything back to the Glazov Gang if you use enough magic marker.
Okay, Daniel Greenfield, I think you could have been a great stand-up comedian, but that talent is coming through on the Glazov Gang and also in your writings. What a profound, powerful article, as always, your articles are. But recently you wrote about this whole Jussie Smollett case, but you tied it in to the left's tribal war on America, on freedom, etc. Could you begin with that? What exactly you mean by that?
My pleasure. So, you know, the usual narrative when we go to the latest 1,000th hate crime hoax is, well, why does the media fall for it? The media doesn't fall for it. The media is under no illusions whatsoever. The media pushes it because it reinforces its prejudices and its general hatred. It's negative depictions of the people it disagrees with and loathes, and that's conservatives, it's Trump supporters in general. What we have these days in America is a civil war. It's a tribal civil war. It's a war between these varying tribes. And in a tribal war, the first thing you do is you dehumanize the other tribe. You paint them as horrible, as barbaric, as less than human. That's what the Smollett hoax, that's why it works so well. It's also the Covington Catholic hoax. Because the entire idea is that Trump supporters, conservatives, are subhuman. They're monsters. They're capable of anything. And so, of course, they could do things like this because they're not human. And, you know, in this particular case, the media will go, yes, it turns out to be false. But, you know, it's the overall truth. As Dan Rather once said, fake but accurate. That's the left's paradigm. It's the media's paradigm. Conservatives are barbaric. Trump supporters are going out there lynching black men. Yes, in this case, it didn't actually happen, but that's the larger truth. It's fake but accurate.
So, Daniel, let's say that tomorrow you approached CNN and MSNBC and said that while you were walking home at 2 in the morning, these transgendered leftists jumped out of a bush and screamed that you were in Obama country now and you know, abused you in various ways. They wouldn't really jump on that story, correct? Now, I know that I'm speaking common sense, but it's always worth repeating these malicious double standards. Speak on that for a minute.
They probably want to hand a human rights award out to the attackers. But, you know, we have real-life examples. There have been a string of violent anti-Semitic attacks in Brooklyn targeting largely Orthodox Jews. The perpetrators are largely African Americans. And the media has been very uncomfortable with the story. The New York Times recently did a piece on it, and it was all, we have to figure out why they're doing this. When it's supposedly Trump supporters attacking a black man, they don't have to figure out why. They, of course, know why. And it's, of course, because Trump supporters are innately racist. But when it's black men attacking Jews, it's, we have to delve into this. We have to try and understand this. We have to find some reason why this isn't what it appears to be. Whereas where it fits the narrative, then it's exactly what it appears to be.
Daniel, in your profound writings, you write about the cry bully, and I'm very grateful to you because a lot of your thinking on this helped me with my book, because that's really what the jihadist psychopath matrix and paradigm is as well. You talk about the cry bully. It's just such a fascinating concept, the bully that's weeping. But you write that the left is a victimhood cult. And in one of your articles, you write that the left feeds off pain and fetishizes suffering as a moral commodity to be sold and resold in exchange for political power. Thank you for those profound words. I think they say everything. But this whole thing about the fetishization of suffering, the victimhood cult, this is how totalitarians achieve power. Can you speak on that?
Well, in the Marxist system, you don't actually value strength, you value weakness. That is to say, you value being oppressed. Thus, it doesn't matter, of course, you can be the oppressed oppressor, but it's important that you appear to be the victim because that's what gives you sanction to do anything. If you're the victim, you have the right to take power. You have the right to abuse other people. You have the right to deprive them of their rights because you are the victim. You're the oppressed. Now, this isn't a new concept. Obviously, before every war, the attacking side will claim that it's the victim. The Nazis claimed that they were the victims. They staged an incident when they were invading Poland to make it appear that the Poles were actually the ones attacking them. So this is somewhat normative, but what the left does is it burns this into everyday life on a constant basis, which means when you want special privileges, you want special entitlements, you have to claim that you are specially oppressed. And then, of course, you can get affirmative action. You can cut in line in all sorts of ways because you have to have these privileges because, of course, you're underprivileged. To be underprivileged means that you're entitled to privileges. And this is how it works in this kind of conflict that we're dealing with.
Daniel, I just, thank you so much. Just even in this Smollett case, it's just, I can't wait to hear the excuses now of how they're going to be covering up for it, because it just becomes more and more surreal and Kafkaesque. And so let's go back to the Covington Catholic hoax there. That young teenager, the Catholic student, after it was even all revealed, then the left still came forward and said, oh yeah, but how about that smirk he had on his face? How about the way he was smiling? And something very Khmer Rouge about this, something very Maoist here, because as we know that in that world, even the wrong look on your face could be anti-state, anti-utopian. Can you talk a little bit about that, where even facial expressions now are part of this issue?
Well, in a recent article, I call this face crime. Because we had thought crimes in Orwell, now we have face crimes. But the practical term for this is racist. If you had a situation where a black man was accused of something, and it was proven that he didn't actually commit the crime, yet everybody from a particular group insisted that he must have done it because, just look at his face, you would call that racist. That's exactly what this is. You had all these people writing, major media people writing analysis of Nick Sandman's face and just this smirk on his face and determining just what he was probably thinking and what his facial expression said. This is people reading their own prejudices into somebody else, projecting them onto him, and writing entire papers about how prejudiced they are. That's exactly what this is.
Judy Monroe Leighton. This woman wrote a letter to the committee at that time, investigating Kavanaugh during that whole thing, and Kamala Harris got her hands on this letter, and Judy Monroe Leighton accused Kavanaugh of raping her years back. She afterwards came forward and said the whole thing is a lie. She just said, I lied. I want to know, when Kamala Harris got this letter, how did it get into the media? How did people find out about this? Like, you get a letter. Who released this letter? What's being done about this? What's being done about Judy Monroe-Leighton lying about this? Why isn't Kamala Harris asked about her own role, the timeline of how she got that letter, how they investigated it first before releasing it, all that stuff? They've destroyed a guy's reputation. But now, with the Smollett thing ensuing, Kamala Harris is saying that she's waiting for the facts to come in. I want to know, how long did you wait for the facts to come in with this woman, Judy Monroe-Leighton, that's now even admitted that she lied? This whole thing is very, very disgusting, Daniel.
It is very disgusting, and there's another level to this, because Senator Kamala Harris had her own Me Too problem. One of her close aides and confidants was actually accused of sexually harassing his executive assistant. This woman actually filed a complaint. She was forced to sign a DNR. She was forced to sign an NDA non-disclosure agreement that she would never talk about it, and received a settlement. Now, the only reason to force her to sign a non-disclosure agreement was so she wouldn't embarrass Kamala Harris and her good pal, who actually went on to work with her in her Senate office. Now, when Kamala Harris was actually asked if she believed this woman who accused her close confidant of sexual harassment, she said that she sympathized, but that she couldn't say that she believed her. So when they came to Justice Kavanaugh, Kamala Harris was willing to believe anybody who came in off the street and told any lie about Justice Kavanaugh. But when they came to her good pal, she wasn't willing to believe her. And in fact, her people actually helped cover this up. They actually forced this woman to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and Kamala Harris has been the co-sponsor of a bill forbidding non-disclosure agreements to be used in sexual harassment cases. So this is manifest hypocrisy. It's a deep-rooted corruption, and these are the people who claim to represent our highest moral values.
And Daniel, so let's wrap this up again with your profound thesis here, that this is really all about a tribal war. And in your recent article, and ladies and gentlemen, you should be doing nothing else but watching the Glazov Gang and also reading Daniel Greenfield at The Point in one of his recent articles. But this one was at Front Page magazine, and it's an honor to run his articles at Front Page as well, which you should be reading. But he writes about the tribal war and so of the left. And so, Daniel, you write about tribal superiority and how it's being reinforced by the left through ritualistic acts of humiliation of conservatives. Let's finish on that, and perhaps in layman's terms, so people, including myself, can understand this better.
So a tribal war comes in 3 stages. The first stage is when you're picking a fight, which means you get outrageous, you claim to have suffered horrible victimhood atrocities. And that's where the whole Nathan Phillips, the whole Smollett thing comes in. You invent these atrocities, these horrible abuses. And then, of course, in the second stage, you have to retaliate against them. So what you do is you don't go to full-scale violence. Instead, you actually try to destroy people. You humiliate them. You drag them in front of the cameras. You accuse them of things they didn't do. And what we saw with Justice Kavanaugh was very much that kind of second stage. Now we have these so-called outrages, these so-called assaults that happened, that we claim happened, that would never actually happen. Then you drag a guy like Justice Kavanaugh in front of the camera, you destroy him, you humiliate him, you destroy his family, you break his reputation, and you celebrate that because this shows that you have power, and that's how you escalate. And of course, in the third stage, you actually move on to violence. Because if somebody like Justice Kavanaugh doesn't bow out, then you say, well, this is proof that the system doesn't work. This means that we have no choice but to escalate, to confront, to actually use violence.
Daniel, I couldn't help from remembering the picture of what they're doing to the teachers in the schools during the Maoist Cultural Revolution when they're humiliating them, not just in the school, but also in the public field and in the public square, right?
Of course, this is very much the same thing. We are undergoing another cultural revolution. That's something that every communist regime sooner or later does. It takes the people who are authority figures, it destroys them, it humiliates them, and it turns them into examples to radicalize the youth.
Thank you for your words of wisdom, Daniel Greenfield, and thank you for coming on and also for everything that you do.
Thank you for everything you do, for your work, and for Jihadist Psychopath. It's a fantastic book, and everybody's encouraged to go out and get it.
Thank you. You know, we should just have these shows where we compliment each other back and forth for like 2 hours.
I'd watch that.
Thank you for watching the Glazov Gang. Good night.